Please welcome Rainbow Rowell and Nathan Maharaj.
Hi, Rainbow.
Hello, Nathan.
So tell us about Fangirl.
Okay. Fangirl is about a girl, Kath, who is a twin. And she finds out right before, kind of the summer before she starts college, that her twin sister doesn't want to live with her. And she feels very, very, very betrayed and abandoned by her sister. Well, she's very introverted, I guess. I feel strange using the word introvert, extrovert, because I think these giant labels, and Kath is probably, I think she's got some social anxiety. She's so used to her sister being the public face of their relationship, and the idea of going to college without her sister has just devastated her. And she thinks about not going to college at all. So it's about her showing up and having to be by herself and do all of those beginning of, college things. But it's also Kath has another identity, and she is an
Magic Kath.
Yes, Magic Kath, and she is a very, very successful fan, and she writes fan fiction for a series that I've created for the book called Simon Snow and the Mage's Heir, and so she writes Simon Snow stories, and she's very, very successful.
Fan fiction's a big thing for you. We were talking before. You read a lot of it. It's your comfort place.
Yeah.
Tell me how you came to that.
Yeah. Well, I think that I was writing fan fiction as a teenager, but I'm very, very old. I'm perhaps less of a young adult than you. I'm a girl, though, so so I was writing, I've always written stories and made up stories about the things that I love. So when I was a teenager, I was really into making up X-Men stories that I would star in a very Mary Sue-like way.
What was your superpower?
Telepathy.
Good one.
Yeah. And also I could fly. But you don't have to explain that ever, even in comic books. You can just say a character flies, right? Yeah. But also I was really into Wham! So usually it would be like me with my superpowers falling in love with Andrew Ridgeley and us having to deal with the fact that I had superpowers, and that the Beast and Iceman were also really into me. So there was like a lot of love triangles. Like anybody blue, I was always really...
It's like a love pentagon.
You can do that on the X-Men. So I had always had this sort of fanish mindset where if you love something, I never want to let go of the things I love. And I'm always like making up my own stories. So after the Harry Potter movies, I walked out of, after the books, I was okay. I was like, it's okay, there'll be movies. There are gonna be movies, there'll be like 10 movies for each book, it's gonna be fine, I don't have to say goodbye. But I walked out of the last Deathly Hallows movie and just thought, it's over. And I started reading fan fiction that very night.
Wow.
Yeah, I like Googled it.
You were like a junkie looking for a fix.
It was exactly right, that's exactly right. Well, I think for a lot of people in traditional publishing, so I mean, I've encountered that when I started writing the book with people saying, you can't write about fan fiction, that's plagiarism, and also I think dirty.
Someone told me.
It's mostly women writing and reading fan fiction on the internet, and it's a lot of teenage girls. And anything teenage girls do to express their romantic or even sexual feelings is automatically awful and shameful and something that shouldn't be talked about.
But that's a new phenomenon, right?
No.
You've said that if there's not a love story, it's not real life. Like that's not a story, right?
Yeah, right. So the best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. It is.
Right, and we agree on that.
We all agree on that.
We agree on that
because we're not monsters. And I would say a big component of that is the Han Leia love story, because the idea that romance cheapens a story, romance doesn't cheapen life. Do you know people in your life and you think, oh, that person has never known love, he's a finer, more intellectual being. No, that is a part of our life. Finding someone, it's perhaps not perhaps some of us feel this need or drive more than others, but love and romantic love is fundamental to who we are. So yeah, I think it's a huge part of story. This book felt like an experiment to me because I already had another book idea plotted, an adult book, and my agent really, really wanted me to write that book, and I did write it. Landline, it comes out soon. But I was so in love with this situation and these characters that I thought, okay, I did it during National Novel Writing Month, which in November you try to write a novel, and I thought, I'm just going to write this book. I'm going to get it out of me. And you know, if it's bad, no one ever has to read it. And so that allowed me to take all sorts of risks.
Right, yeah.
So the playing with the fan fiction, the writing the fan fiction, that all felt very like risky and weird.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if it doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out. I have a day job. In high school, in junior high and high school, the hardest years of my life, really, really difficult. And what I wanted more than anything was to escape. I just wanted to be taken someplace else. And I feel like books are the greatest gift I had because they were so inexpensive, practically free. And you know, I could just, I'm really good at getting lost in a book, which I think maybe makes me a good writer because I can just disappear. Those years were about disappearing and going to a place where I could just be myself and no one was in my face. So I really, really got into science fiction and fantasy and in high school and never stopped. So, and this, I don't know if this counts as fantasy, but Watership Down is a book that I loved in high school. Also in high school, I started reading John Irving and Tom Robbins. Mm-hmm. And those were the first writers who I had read who approached language as kind of a game. So if you read Tom Robbins especially, I'm always afraid that when I'm saying it, I'm saying Tim Robbins. And then I lose which one is right.
Better that than Harold Robbins.
Yeah, Harold Robbins.
Then you're off the deep end.
And I'm telling you, one of my favorite authors is an author who's not even that's not even his name. But he plays with words and with metaphors in a way that he's very self-indulgent, I think, in a way that really I fell in love with. And also I read Lewis Carroll, like an excessive amount of Lewis Carroll. So those were the years where I think I found out, like, oh, writing isn't just storytelling. But there's also writing as play and as art and as like words and sounds. I really got into nonsense writing, which Lewis Carroll does, and the idea that you can convey meaning just with sounds and context. So that was really, really important to me because that's when I kind of became a writer because it seemed like it wasn't just about getting to the point, but about having fun with the language.